So we are really close to the new commitment deadline for colleges, and I figured now would be an appropriate time as ever to discuss my experiences at community college and why I think we should all give it a second thought. My name is Mayer. I am a student filmmaker and audio professional in the San Francisco Bay Area, and this is my CC experience. This video is going to be broken down into a few segments, so if you want to just click on one of those, timestamps are in the description. Just a little bit of backstory. I attended some community college courses when I was in my junior year of high school in a middle college program, so I had a lot of experience at the community college that I ended up going to anyway, and this also allowed me to, understand what I was getting into before I got into it, which was a lot nicer. But right after high school, I actually went straight to art school. And about 2 or 3 months into that, I realized that the program wasn't right for me. And so I decided to come back home and go to community college and live with my parents. There was a lot of factors that went into that decision, but it turned out to be one of the greatest decisions I've ever made. My community college experience has been pretty amazing. I can't imagine not having done this and sticking with a program that I didn't enjoy. So I'm glad that I made the decision to come back home and to do community college, but there's some factors that I considered as well and that I learned, along my path that I think we should all know about. First, let's talk about the expense. So that's one of the biggest benefits of community college. In 17 or 20 states or something like that, community college is actually free or really close to free. For me, since that program was initiated after I attended, it turned out to be about $1,500 a year.
Wow, right?
Yeah, great, amazing.
And if we do a cost breakdown of what colleges cost these days, Stanford University is about $51,000 a year. UC Berkeley or UC San Diego, all the UCs, the University of California's, are about $14,000 or $15,000 a year. The California State Universities, San Jose State, Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, those are about $7,000 or $8,000 a year. And then you get to community college. And community college can be free if you have this program in your state, or it can be super duper cheap. My credits were about $31 a unit, and every semester or quarter, that totaled up to be about $500. So I was on the quarter system, and it was so inexpensive. So if expense is a factor in your college decision making, and you don't want to have to take out a huge fat student loan that's going to take forever to pay back, I would recommend considering doing 2 years of community college and then transferring. I wanted to quickly talk about the transfer experience for me. In California, we have 2 transfer admission guarantee sort of things. One is the TAG program, the Transfer Admission Guarantee, which gets you into one of 6 UC campuses guaranteed if you fulfill the requirement. It doesn't guarantee that you get into Berkeley, LA, or San Diego, but it'll get you into Santa Barbara, Davis, Santa Cruz, any of those sorts of University of California schools. The other side of it is the associate's degree for transfer. So if you fulfill the requirements for the associate degree for transfer in whatever major, you have guaranteed acceptance into one of the state universities that's near you. For me, I got guaranteed acceptance from TAG into UC Davis, and an associate's degree for transfer automatically guaranteed into San Jose State. I didn't end up going to either of these schools, but it was a great way for me to just have that backup option and just get a guaranteed acceptance. I could never have gotten into some of these schools coming out of high school because I just didn't have the requirements. So as it turns out, CC was great for me to just have that potential at my fingertips. I ended up getting into 12 schools that I applied to out of community college. I got into UC San Diego, UC Davis, UC Santa Barbara, San Jose State, San Francisco State, and a lot of these other schools. I also got into UNR, Temple, Ithaca, which is where I'm ending up transferring to in the fall, and CSU Monterey Bay. A lot of good schools that I am glad to have the potential to have gone to. Next up is the quality of courses. Again, I might be a bit biased here because I went to one of the best community colleges in California. I'm just fortunate that I live really close to that community college, and that's just where I grew up. So I'm very lucky that I was able to do that. But the quality of courses for me was absolutely fantastic. if you choose your professors correctly and you understand how to use Rate My Professor and you talk to people who were in that class previously, you should have no problem finding professors that meet your needs. You're not going to get an amazing professor every time, but the same thing goes for a four-year university anyway. One thing about courses is that some courses at community college can be difficult to get into, especially impacted majors. So engineering, mathematics, biology, chemistry, physics, those sorts of classes can be more difficult to get. I will say that your first quarter at community college is going to suck with classes because you'll have a very low registration rate. After that, you should be fine getting the courses that you want because your registration priority will be bumped. So if you do it right and you plan out correctly, you will be able to find quality of courses that match your needs. For me, my major was communication studies, and I only had one teacher within 6 or 7 classes that I didn't necessarily jive with all too well. But if you do your research well, then you can find great classes. Next up is housing. Housing insecurity can be a huge issue with community college. I'm fortunate that my parents let me live with them while I was going to CC. So that was just a big benefit on my end, but I understand that some people may have more issues. With the housing, you have to live with your parents, or you have to live with a relative. And maybe this is something that, is not that great for you. For me, I like to have my own space, and while I'm super grateful that I was able to live at home with my parents, there can be some issues that arise while this occurs. So at this point, I'm very ready to move out, and I'm doing so shortly, so I'm excited about that. There are so many resources for housing that I think if you really just look into it and try hard to find what you're looking for, you should be able to find some sort of program that meets your needs as far as housing goes. The other end of that is that if you live in a very expensive area, then there can be an issue with that. Where I live, rent is about $2,200 a month. I know. So I'm just very, very fortunate that I was able to live at home, and I greatly thank my parents for that. One thing that I really liked about the community college experience was the demographics of my community college. If you take a look at what Cupertino's demographics are, it is mostly Asian and white. But if you look at De Anza, my community college's demographics, you have a wide array of races and ethnicities that attend. And I think this is so much nicer. I did grow up in an area that was predominantly Asian and white. And having the experience to be in classes with other races and ethnicities was great because you get a bunch of other perspectives. And I think that is something that is missing at some major universities and in some places that you would be living. So community college is a great place to find some sort of diversity and diverse group. Quickly, the vocational education is something that I haven't personally experienced, but I do know people who went through an electrician program or a plumbing program or a car mechanic program, and they're out there in the workplace making a bunch of money. So a 2-year vocational school for that sort of thing is also something that community college does offer. One of the big things that people talk about is the social experience of community college. I will tell you straight up, you're not going to get the regular experience that you would get at a 4-year university. It's just not going to happen. You are going to a commuter school most of the time, and so people will drive from home. And that is just how it works. But for me, college is predominantly about the educational experience. Obviously, I would love to have that social experience, and in a lot of ways, I did. But for me, I like to study my ass off and get a good degree and get a good job. But for me, the social experience was definitely a factor in my major. I was a communication studies major at community college. And in that major, you get a bunch of group courses and you have to be in these groups. Most of the people that I met at CC were in these groups in my courses. So if you're looking for an easy way to make friends, and by the way, I say easy, but you have to put yourself out there. If you're looking for an easy way to make friends, take a course that is predominantly group-based, and chances are you'll find a couple people within that group or groups around that do meet the needs that you are looking for in a friend. Other ways to do this are being in a club or being on an athletic team in community college, but for me the easiest way was to take classes that I knew I would necessitate social contact. I'm still in touch with some of the people that I was in these groups with. Even in like an environmental science course, we had to do group projects. So thinking about those sorts of courses to find people is something that we don't necessarily hear a lot about, but I think is a very important aspect of the CC experience. Community college transfer out rate is pretty low. I will say that everybody that I know that went to CC did transfer out. And again, this may be different at my college than yours, but you have to stay dedicated. Remind yourself that you're at a real college. You have to do the work, you have to get a good GPA, and you have to transfer out within a reasonable amount of time. It's very important to maintain these values. Obviously, I'm in circumstances that allowed me to do so, but I also wasn't working a full-time job while I was doing it. If it takes you 3 or 4 years to transfer out, that's totally okay. But make sure that you have your plan, you stick to your path, and you recognize that dedication is necessary in any collegiate setting. And finally, the biggest part of community college negatives is the stigma. The stigma of community college is the worst part of going there. I grew up in the heart of Silicon Valley. And what I was taught growing up was that state schools like San Jose State are for crappy people who are like lower tier students, or don't go to community college because that's for druggies, drunks, dropouts, losers, and lazy students.
Nope.
All of that is absolute frickin' bullshit. Please don't have that mindset. It's so unnecessary, and it's just not representative of the community college population as a whole. And I think that this is one of the big reasons that a lot of people turn off community college, because of this unnecessary stigma that we are holding. CC is not for lazy people. It's not for losers or dropouts or drunks or druggies. I think that you'll find a lot of drugs at any college that you go to. Community college is all about getting to a place in life where you can be happy, and you're just on a different path than people who go to university. You're just on a different path, and this path is not a bad path to take. In fact, it may be a better path than the original path that I was going to take as an art student. I'm a proud art school dropout. Seriously. I recognized that my situation wasn't great, and I made the choice to go to community college because I knew that I would be getting a better education there for what I wanted to fulfill. By holding this stigma against your family, against your friends, it's creating a divide in their educational experience in some ways. So if you are dealing with this stigma on your end, I have to say, tell your family that it is a real college, you're a real student, you're gonna graduate, you're gonna transfer out, and you're gonna get your bachelor's degree. That's what I have to say about the stigma. Please don't hold it. It's so unnecessary. Community college has been a fantastic experience on my end, and I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I have been afforded to do so. Just a reminder, about 30% of college students transfer within 2 years, even at universities. So this is not an unusual thing. It is not a path that you should consider not taking. There's so many ways to fulfill your dreams and your education, and I think community college is a way that you should definitely consider. So if this video helped you in any way, let me know. Let me know what your CC experience is like, or if you're contemplating going to a 4-year or a 2-year first. Thanks so much for checking it out. I have some other videos that I think you may be interested in, but otherwise, have a great week, and I hope that you make a decision that is right for you. Definitely connect with me on social media. I'm sure it's somewhere around my head, and I will see you sometime soon. Cheers.